G'day guys, and welcome back to this week's Fishing Report, where every cast is an adventure. Whether you're a seasoned angler or someone looking just to get into fishing, the Fishing Report here is going to help you catch more fish around Sydney. As always, the Fishing Report is proudly sponsored by Seven Seas Apparel. Don't forget to use code REALFISHING10 to save yourself 10% off anything Seven Seas Apparel. Like and subscribe as always, and let's get into what's been biting around Sydney. Well, in the fishing community over the last week, we've seen a lot of sharks about, whether it be in Sydney or all around Australia, the sharks have been quite prevalent. So please be careful when you're heading out and having a fish. They are definitely about in the Port Hacking, up shallow. There's been a few sharks sighted, as well as in Botany Bay. Along with that, heading out offshore, our marlin have been really consistent over the last month, and our marlin bite is at its peak at the moment. Heading out in between 80 metres all the way out to the shelf have been producing some nice fish. Finding that strong current area, having a few slimies about, and also looking at your sounder and finding where the bait are, the marlin are often not far behind. As well, out offshore, we've had a few nice mahi still around our fads. That's going to be producing over the next couple of weeks, so head out to the fads nice and early, whether you're using deep divers or live baits, and get yourself a few nice dolphin fish. As well, out offshore around our cliffs have been producing some really nice kings. We've had a pretty good season out offshore on the kingfish. People have been cracking that metre mark quite consistently, which is great to see. Now, over the next month or two, the kings should start to slowly head into the river, and hopefully those metre plus ones are in there as well. Heard a few reports here and there of some nice kings in and about the rivers, but nothing over that metre mark just yet. This weekend could be your opportunity to do that. Heading back into the river, and our typical summer species, our bream, whiting and flathead have been producing in some really good numbers. Whether you're using lures or pumping some nippers and using them as bait, have been producing some really nice fish. Places like behind me out in the Botany Bay, as well as the flats along the Port Hacking, and even up in the Sydney Harbour region around those moored boats have been producing some really nice fish. Now, let's look at where we're going to go fishing this weekend and where we should be going. What we have over the weekend is our typical summer's weekend. We got a northerly breeze pretty much all day for Saturday and Sunday, starting really low in the morning and pushing into a stronger nor'east in the afternoon. In the afternoon, it's looking at about 25-30 k's an hour, and in the morning between 5 and 10 k's an hour. So if we're going to go out fishing, I'll be looking at the morning as my peak time. Perfect conditions in regards to the wind, and it's going to be great to be able to have a fish. What we have in the morning, we have a high tide around 5:30, and that run out tide to about 11 o'clock, 11:30. So that morning tide is going to be a really good time to chase our basics. So bream, whiting and flathead are going to be the three things I'm going to be targeting when I'm going to go out and have a fish on the weekend. Places to go. In the morning on that high tide, if you can go out the night before and get some nice nippers in the afternoon, keep them overnight and then use them in the morning, I'm heading up on the flats. So if you're going to use bait, using unweighted nippers and casting them as far away from the boat as you can, whether you're anchored up or you're slowly drifting over the flats, you should be able to produce some really nice bream, whiting and flathead. The key with this is, when you're heading up on those flats, cast as far away from your boat as you can. Yes, anchor up and burley up is another great option, but I prefer to drift very slowly with the current or drift using my electric motor. What I do is cast as far away as I can from the boat. They know your boat is there, and they're often spook bites. So if you can get a cast that is 20-30 meters away from the boat, that is going to produce some really nice quality fish. Once that tide slowly starts to run out, what I'm going to be doing is fishing the edges. Right behind me, what you can see is a nice shallow sand flat right behind me, and then a deeper blue section. That is an edge. And what you should be doing is targeting those edges during the back half of that run out tide. So from about 9 o'clock to that 11:30, the back half of that run out tide is going to produce some really nice flathead. Again, if you're going to use baits, drifting along those edges and casting your baits towards those edges should see yourself with some nice fish. Lures would be my preferred choice on the back half of that run out tide. What I'm going to be doing is fishing those edges. So I'll be casting into that shallow flat and working my lure across that edge, targeting our flathead. Soft plastics, things like Daiwa Bait Junkie prawns, 2.95 inch flick, the wave minnow, all really good ones. If you've got natural bloodworm colors or the red herring, they will hopefully help you produce some really nice fish. Use your jig head, get as light as you can. If you can go to 1/6, 1/8, that's really good. If you can only fish that 1/4 ounce, that's also going to work as well, particularly for your flathead. Heading out offshore, and if we're going to go out offshore over the weekend, snapper, I'm not going to be recommending that because the tide change is that 5:30. It's going to be a bit hard to be out there at that tide change. But as I said, what's been biting out offshore, we've got our marlin and our mahi-mahi if you're going to head out offshore and target them. But if you're going to target your kingfish, this is what you should be doing. Heading out as early as you can. Going out to our bait grounds, whether it be in Botany Bay or out at middle grounds off the Port Hacking, or even at Long Reef out off Sydney Harbour, what you should be doing, collecting your live baits, but also having a popper and a soft plastic rod. So 3 setups: live bait, a popper, and a soft plastic rod. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to head to the cliffs. So south of the Port Hacking, things like Marley out off there are really good along the cliff face there around Marley. And in between the Port Hacking and Botany Bay, on the southern side of Botany Bay, the cliffs there as it comes around to Mary's Reef is another really good spot. Along with that, Long Reef have been producing some really nice kings, but also at the heads of Sydney Harbour and the cliff faces around there. I'm going to be slow trolling my live baits early in the morning. If I find some really nice signs of kingfish, I'm going to click it into neutral, let that bait sink down and see if you can get a kingfish. While that bait's sinking down, I'm going to have my soft plastic or my popper rod nice and ready to go, casting it out and working it as well along with that live bait out bank. You can also do that via drifting, but again, along the cliff face, it can be quite dangerous. So making sure that you're slow trolling is probably the safest bet in regards to that. So that's going to do it for this week's fishing report. Hope you all enjoyed it. Hope you all go out for a fish. Leave a comment down below where you're going to head out and have a fish, and we'll see you next week for the fishing report.